Hey everybody, I was so stoked to finally go to Silverwood for the first time ever in my life, and it was a high on my bucket list for a lot of reasons. I'll get into that, but we're going to go over a bunch of awesome, amazing things at Silverwood that really blew me away, and then a few disappointing things, to be fair. Alright, so let's jump in. First up, they have an awesome collection of wooden roller coasters. They have Tremors, which is, I think, the best one. It goes underground like 4 times. And they also have Timber Terror, which is another wooden roller coaster that's actually just about as intense, that goes along the outer edge of the park border. And I would say with Tremors, ride that one after it warms up. That's honestly the biggest difference I've ever seen in a roller coaster from the morning to the night was in Tremors. I rode it in the morning with my brother, and we went, it was a fun ride, and it was like, woohoo, but it felt kind of tame. My brother compared it to Pony Express at Knott's Berry Farm. But then I rode it again a few hours later, kind of in the afternoon, evening, and that was so fun. We rode it on the first row, and you really get some good airtime going over those hills. And it completely changed from being a mild kid coaster to a really fun roller coaster with lots of forces. The other awesome thing is Tremors has a 42-inch minimum height limit, which is actually really low. Like I went with a 5-year-old nephew, and I got to ride it with him. And that was super cool because this was his first ever roller coaster. He almost, his eyes almost popped out of his head because of how crazy it was, but he loved it by the end. Super cool that you can ride these two fun rides, Timber Terror and Tremors, even with someone who's 5 years old if they're tall, so really, really awesome. And honestly, a 48-inch tall kid, I was looking at the height requirements, someone who's 48 inches tall can ride everything at the park except for Aftershock, for which you have to be 56 inches. So my niece was 7 years old, and she could have ridden everything in the park if she wanted to. She got a little scared, so she only rode the wooden roller coasters, but pretty awesome. Next up, the park is super clean. This is something that I normally don't notice, but this one was clean enough that I did notice it. Also because my sister, who's at the park with us, about every 10 minutes was like, "Man, this park is so clean. This is awesome." We're used to going to parks in California, and I think you kind of attract a different kind of crowd in California. Really awesome people, but I think the big thing is because the parks are so saturated with so many people, it's hard to keep the parks clean all the time. And we were just really impressed with how clean and just what a good standard that Silverwood had. Next up, we got not busy crowds. Again, this is relative. I grew up in California. There are lots of people in California. Like Knott's Berry Farm is probably one of the busiest amusement parks, and Disneyland too, but Knott's Berry Farm being a high thrill park is very, very, very busy. Now, at Silverwood, we went, and there are lots of people who we asked, how busy is this compared to normal? And for context, we had like 15-minute waits for some rides. Some rides were walk-ons, just about. And people said, oh, man, this is so busy. And they're saying like, man, this is so much more packed than normal. So for people local in Idaho, where, especially up there, it's a pretty far out, not crowded area, it was more busy than normal. For us, it was just a breath of fresh air to not have to, accidentally spoon people while you're in lines and stuff. It was really awesome. Next up, we have lots of awesome stuff for kids. So normally I wouldn't pay too much attention to this, but, I do have a daughter. And we went with our nieces and nephews, and I was honestly blown away with how many awesome fun attractions there were for kids, and things that parents could enjoy too. Like they have these water bumper boats that go out and around and under another ride, and you can shoot each other with water, and there's a lot of fun things to do for kids. They got 2 coasters, tons of flat rides. It's just awesome. Next up, you can camp outside of Silverwood. And this is something I'm learning isn't totally unique to the park. A lot of parks kind of up in that area, like Lagoon and I think Holiday World, have campsites around. But this is the first time that I've actually been close to interacting with the campsites. Pretty awesome, You're leaving the park and then you see campfires as you're walking to the campground, or you're walking to the parking lot, because people are out there just chilling outside of their trailers or their tents, roasting some s'mores after a long day in the park. I think it's awesome. They're encouraging people to stay there, but also connect with the outdoors. I think that's a really, really good thing. The theme parks are all about getting out. So I think it's awesome how they have an option to stay out when you go to bed. And it's just an underground tunnel that takes you over to the park from your campground. So that's pretty sweet. Next up, they let you bring food into the park. And I know this is not totally unique to them, but it was a huge relief. We had our group of adults and then my daughter and then there were 4 nieces and nephews. And we had a stroller and just loaded that thing with snacks for them to get them throughout the day. And that was a huge relief, because that would have been a ton of money to buy stuff for them. And I love when the parks say, hey, you know what? If we want people to buy food in the parks, why don't we make food that they want to buy rather than just force them to buy it because we're starving them because we don't let them bring food into the parks. So that was really awesome. I really appreciate that. And it feels like a great, friendly thing to do for your park guests. Next up, a bunch of teenagers work there. This is something I've noticed also at Lagoon. I think it might just be around like the rules of what age you're allowed to start working, but it's pretty cool to see so many young kids working the park. Sometimes it did kind of lead to, I think, poorer operations because they're younger and learning, but that's fine. I just thought it was cool to see young kids kind of getting their summer jobs in. There were some kids there that I thought looked like they were 12 years old. I don't think they were. Maybe they just looked young. But I think there were 14-year-olds working at the park for sure, which I just think is fun. You have kids that are excited about roller coasters, excited about the rides, and I think that adds a lot to the environment when you have younger people contributing rather than just, I don't know, if you only have the older crowd, it could be more fun, but I think it's cool that you work in some youth, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of weird how I'm saying it, but I think you get my feel. Next up, Stunt Pilot really impressed me. That's their single rail RMC coaster, kind of like Wonder Woman at Fiesta Texas or Magic Mountain if you've been there, or Jersey Devil coaster, so-and-so. Anyway, what I was impressed with, other than the ride being super fun, is the loading. Every time they loaded the car, they'd load it until the very end. This is a single file line loading style. And then they'd ask if there are any single riders and fill the car to the end every single time. And that made me super happy that every time they were trying to fill the train. I really love it when parks do that. And it makes you feel more cared for as a guest because, they're operating it well. And Stunt Pilot, I rode it a few times that day. Never had a long line. And I think it's because of that, because of good operations. I got to ride the world's first Corkscrew roller coaster, and its name is Corkscrew. Yep, this is the Corkscrew roller coaster that was originally at Six Flags. Sorry, that was originally at Knott's Berry Farm. I never got to ride it because it was relocated long before I could ride that. And I don't know, it's pretty basic. You just go up like 30 feet or something, and then you drop down, do a little turnaround, and then go through 2 corkscrews, and you're done. But it was pretty cool to be riding such a significant piece of history. This is the first traditional corkscrew roller coaster, I think, in the world. So, pretty awesome. If you want to go ride a ride that gives you some pretty cool claim to, I guess, historical significance, go ride Corkscrew at Silverwood. Okay, next up, I made a video talking about the relocation of Arieforce and where I think Arieforce One could be relocated. I said Silverwood is a very good candidate, but I didn't think they had the room. Okay, I changed my mind. Silverwood definitely has the room. Like, I would not be surprised if Silverwood picked up Arieforce One. I'm not saying they will. There's a lot of business things I have to consider. That's a pretty big investment. But they have lots of room. They have a huge field between their theme park and their water park. They have a lot of room around their campsites, their parking lot, everywhere. They have tons of room at Silverwood. It just depends on if they want to use that room for coasters or if they like the open feel, because they do like fairs and pop-ups and stuff. But they definitely have room to have Arieforce One if they want it. Next up, I love how they have you interact with rides there. Not all the rides, but just a few of them. Like, for example, on Tremors, as you walk to the entrance of Tremors from Timber Terror, you walk under the ride at least twice and have the train flies right over you, which I think is super awesome. I love that they do that. I think great rides and great theme park environments often have interactions between the guests and the roller coasters. Another example of that is the log ride. I'm spacing on the name right now. I'll add it in the video. But the log ride has a dock where someone can stand next to the log flume as it comes down the drop, and you can get splashed by the log flume. And then if you pay for a quarter, you can completely drench, like not even splash, completely drench the people in the inside of the log as they come around. So I just love it when there's opportunities for interaction between the guests on rides and the guests off rides. I think it's good for everyone. Oh, and also Timber Terror goes right by a grass field out and back. that you're able to stand on. So I was able to stand like 5 feet away from the roller coaster, maybe 10 feet away, and watch my niece and nephew ride it for the first time, which is pretty fun. Okay, next up we have the staff is really friendly. Not much to say here. I just thought that people in general were very kind to us and treated us like people and not like the people keeping them, or not like the things keeping them from going home after a long shift. And we appreciated the friendly staff. And the next one is obviously lovely scenery. So you're in Coeur d'Alene. I don't know if any of you have talked about Coeur d'Alene with anyone, but almost anyone I know, when I mention Coeur d'Alene, the first thing they say is, oh man, it is so pretty. Like, that's what people think of Coeur d'Alene as. Now, this is north of Coeur d'Alene, in a town called Atoll, I think it's called. I was going to call it Athol, but that doesn't sound right. It sounds like you're insulting someone with a lisp. And anyway, it's just gorgeous. You're surrounded by mountains and rivers and foresty trees. Really, really, I don't know if I've been to a more beautiful theme park setting. Glenwood Caverns is right up there because of just how high up you are in the canyon. I think those are two of the most beautiful theme parks I've been to. Another thing I appreciated is that the water park and the theme park are connected. At first, I was thinking, why do I need to pay tickets for the water park? Because I only want to go to the theme park. But in the end, I was really glad that I got to go to the water park too. And I think it's smart. They don't offer tickets for just the water park or just the theme park. You just buy one ticket and everything's included because it's all part of the experience, and you do whatever you want. So that was super awesome. And you walk through like this beautiful main street by the train. You don't have to leave one park and go to the other. I mean, technically they're different parks, but you don't have to check out and check back in at a gate. It's all part of the same park that you were admitted to. So I think that was really nice, especially for parents of kids, you know, or if you want to split off and do different things with a group. Really simplifies it a lot. Parking is only $10. This is maybe my favorite part, because these days you have lots of parks that think, hey, they're already coming to our park. They already have tickets. Why not just charge them like $45 for parking? Looking at you, Busch Gardens, Tampa. And I think Silverwood is awesome because $10, I was kind of hoping for free parking, but like it makes sense to charge for parking. And when I told my brother that parking was $10, he's like, oh, that's basically free. And obviously $10 isn't free, but it feels like a very fair price. And I appreciated that from Silverwood because they could charge more if they wanted to. And I just think they don't want to. Another thing is they have a lot of free roaming area in the park. They have lots of beautiful lawns you can just go set up a blanket and rest on in the theme park. And they also have beautiful gardens and plants. They have this whole cool garden area you can just go chill in. It's called the Quiet Garden. And you just go hang out in a place full of flowers and tall vines and plants. And they actually have bird feeders up or bird houses that birds go hang out at. So they kind of just naturally create a very beautiful nature-filled environment if you just want to go hang out and relax. And I love that. I think it's cool when parks give you things to do when you're not standing in lines. And I think Silverwood definitely has that. And there's a lot of free play for kids too, not just for adults, but they have like a log ride playground in the theme park. Not a log ride, but like a kind of like a treehouse themed playground, which is awesome. And then also other activities, mostly for kids, but for anyone. Like they have a magic show and a parrot show on Main Street in this theater. We unfortunately didn't get to do that. And then there's also an awesome train that goes around the park. We unfortunately did not get to ride the train either. But I've heard that, you know, they have like a Wild West show on the train and you get robbed. I haven't looked too much into that, but it looks like a very beautiful, you know, there's lots of options for kids to do. And also between the theme park and the water park, there's an enormous field that, you know, I saw kids just running around throwing frisbees on. I think that's awesome. Next up, this is not so much about the theme park. This doesn't affect a lot of my viewers since most of you are, you know, teenagers or adults. But for kids, they have some pretty cool incentives that just make me happy about what the park is supporting. So we talked to some people in the line for Timber Terror, and we asked them, you know, just about their experience. And the girl, you know, she's maybe 10 years old, said, I got in for free. And she got in for free because there was this program that if you read 10 hours and report it to this program, you would get 10 hours through the school year. You would get free tickets to Silverwood. And I just think that's so cool. You know, you will probably make a profit on that because the parents need to come too. But there are some things that just make you feel like, oh, this is the park's way of showing us where their priorities are. They want to create healthy habits in kids. They want kids to be reading. I'm all for it. I love it. That just made me love the park even more. Okay, this could be a bittersweet thing depending on how you look at it. I think it's a great thing. So this park has about 5 major roller coasters. Those are Timber Terror, Aftershock, Tremors, Stunt Pilot, and Corkscrew. And then they have 2 kiddie roller coasters. My brother and I ran in ahead of time because we wanted to try and hit everything before our family hit the park, just so we could hang out with the kids and help out a little more. And we rode everything, like all the major roller coasters, I think in like 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. We got in the park around, 11:45, 12. By the time we hit 12:30, we had pretty much ridden every roller coaster in the park, which is pretty awesome. I think it was because in the morning, a lot of people check into the water park because it's already kind of hot. They say they'll start with the water park and then move over to the theme park. And we were able to basically walk onto Stunt Pilot, almost walk onto Aftershock. We waited like 1 or 2 trains. And that was just because Aftershock took a while to open that day, so we just hit it right after it opened. Almost walk onto Tremors. Timber Terror had a little bit of a wait, maybe like 10 minutes, and then walk onto Corkscrew. This is a great park if you want to be able to have lots of fun and hit every roller coaster without stressing about it. That was really cool, and I think it depends on the time of day, but the lines are pretty doable the entire time. Another cool thing is they have like the coolest park maps ever. I don't know if this is a seasonal thing or an all-the-time kind of thing, but the park maps are just like a newspaper. They look like an old-fashioned newspaper from an old west town, and they have the map on the back and cool incentives. Like they have something that says, here are instructions for making a paper hat, and if you make a paper hat and take it to the general stuff store, you'll get a free souvenir. I love that. I love that they're just looking for excuses to give cool things to kids who are a little creative, like they read or they'll make a paper hat. So super cool. I love that park map. I've never seen anything like it before. And all kids rides and water rides, like the log rides and rapids, are open until park closing at 10 p.m. That's another super cool thing. A lot of times you close kid rides early or you close the water rides early. That makes it really easy. The log ride and the rapids probably have the longest lines throughout the day. And then once it gets to the evening, if you don't care about, getting kind of wet in the evening, they're like walk-ons. So I really respect them a lot for keeping the kids stuff open and the water attractions open until 10 p.m. because not a lot of parks would do that. Another thing, this might make some people mad, but I think for the most part makes people happy. As far as I can tell, there is no fast pass. And that is just awesome. Like, in my opinion, everyone gets to experience the park at the same pace and everyone's kind of on the same plane. I think it does more good for the park than it does bad by not having a fast pass. And that just made me happy. Smooth lines, smooth entrances. It was all very, very good. And I like that people got to experience the park on the same plane. Oh, another thing is they had a lot of carnival games. At a lot of parks I've been to, mostly Magic Mountain and Knott's Berry Farm, where I've noticed this. You have the carnival games and not a lot of people play them. Here, for some reason, like people were playing the carnival games all over the place. I don't really know if it was like cheaper prices or just a more fun environment. I don't know how they did it. Love to hear someone's comments about that. But people were just always playing the carnival games, which definitely added to the kind of fun environment of like, oh, this is a busy, fun park. Even though it felt busy, but you could easily ride everything you wanted to. And then another thing is the food prices were very good. We didn't end up buying any food, like I said, because we bought a lot of snacks, but you know, there's like some smoothie or some shake, and we're like, oh, that's probably like $15, and it's actually like $5.99, $6 for a shake or something, which is higher than I would pay in normal prices. But I was really impressed with, I guess in a theme park, you don't expect to see stuff that cheap, so I was really proud of them for that. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Aftershock. This is one of the rides I was most excited to ride at Silverwood, and it basically, the reason is at Six Flags Magic Mountain, or Magic Mountain as they go by now, they had Deja Vu that operated from 2001 to 2011. Awesome inverted boomerang coaster, just a giant of a coaster, lifts you almost 200 feet in the air. It was so cool. My little brother at the time was almost tall enough to ride it. He was 53 inches, but he had big poofy hair, so he was able to ride just about every roller coaster at Magic Mountain because they just send him in with the busy crowds. But Deja Vu, at the end of the day, they pushed his hair down and said, hey, you're too short to ride this. and then like that month they closed the ride and then got rid of it forever. And I think they sent it to like La Ronde or something, and then it was scrapped. That was pretty sad for my brother because he never ever got to know what Deja Vu was like, even though I got to ride every other ride in the park. So when I found out about Silverwood, I was like, Samuel, there are not a lot of these rides left in the world, and this is like an exact replica of it. You know, it's even blue and green. Super, super awesome. It was just a huge bucket list item to ride that ride, and it was as awesome as I remembered. Crazy intense, super fun, just a kind of scary drop, makes your stomach drop as you fall. So that was another really awesome thing about Silverwood. But I mean, overall, the thing I like the most about Silverwood is just, there are some theme parks that you walk out of there thinking, man, they really wanted our money, or even, man, they really earned our money. But then there are other theme parks that you walk out of there thinking, man, they really care about us. And that's the feeling that I got at Silverwood. Not everything was perfect, but I had a very, very pleasant experience. And I think with Herschend buying Silverwood, it's just going to continue that legacy. But like I said, not everything was perfect, so I am going to point out some of the things that happened that were unfortunate that day, just so we're fair and analyzing everything equally. So here we go. First up, I mentioned there's interaction between the guests and the people on the log rides where you can completely drench people in the log rides. There was one dude there, and he was just popping quarters for like 20 minutes straight. And I went to go record my niece and nephew riding the log ride for their first time. And they came down, went around the corner. And mind you, this is after the water park closed, probably around 8 p.m. So it was already getting dark. People were cold. And this dude just drenched, my family in the log. And they were not happy about that. Will they laugh about it? Yes. Was it kind of funny? Yes, it was. But that was a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old that just got drenched in their only pair of clothes. And it's 8 p.m. So that was kind of a double-sided issue there. Second up, like I said, I really liked the loading in Stunt Pilot, but I did not like the loading in other rides. And I think it wasn't like bad operations policy. I think it was just oversight. For example, in Timber Terror, there were empty rows. They send out a train and there was just like no one in row 11 or something. In Tremors, there were empty rows. In Aftershock, there were empty rows. And each time I'm in the line yelling, hey, row 6 is open. Somebody get up in row 6. And if no one goes up, I'd try and get up and go in the row. Not just because I like need to ride it right now, but it kind of hurts my soul a little bit to watch a train leave without reaching full capacity when it's so easy for a ride operator to just go and find people to fill the rows. My nephew and I rode Tremors, and he loved it so much we wanted to ride it again. We finished our train, and there were 3 empty rows for the group of people loading our train. They loaded, and there were 3 empty rows that they had just forgotten to fill. So we went to go and try and hop on again, and they said, no, you have to go around. And I said, well, you didn't fill these rows. Like, there's no one here, and it's not even like there's no one in line. There are people in line, but you just forgot to fill them, and the gates are already closed. Can we ride it? They said, no, you have to hop around. And it's fine. That's policy, but I think that's something that can just be worked on in training is no train goes out with an empty row. Next up, we have a Tremors. Actually, a lot of maintenance issues throughout the day. Most of them were up. Like, Spin Cycle was down, and then they fixed it. Tremors broke down earlier in the day and then opened up a few minutes later. I think someone had thrown up. And then what really bugged me, was Tremors closed about 2 or 3 hours before the park closed. They said it broke down because of some biohazard, which makes me think a kid just threw up in the station. They didn't open Tremors for the entire last 2 hours of the park, didn't put in an effort to fix it. And maybe it was a big enough issue that it just took too long to fix it, that it wasn't going to be worth it. But the bummer was my niece and nephew got their first ride on Tremors earlier in the day, and they told us to come back later if we decided to buy the picture. So we were going to go back and buy the picture of them on the first roller coaster because it was a pretty epic picture. But the photo booth was closed because they closed the shop with the roller coaster. And anyway, we weren't able to buy the picture, and then we called a day later, and they said we delete all of our pictures the day after. So didn't get that. That's a bummer. But anyway, mostly I was just bummed that Tremors closed down because my nephew and I were just going to marathon that thing. Also, maintenance issues with Aftershock. It didn't open until like 11:30 or 12, and then it broke down a few times throughout the day. But they did get it up and running quickly most of the time, which was good. There's this umbrella ride for kids. Really fun. That was the first ride that my nieces and nephews rode on, and they loved it. But it is a nightmare for loading. Like, you can have no line and still take 20 minutes loading that thing. It's kind of like a Ferris wheel where they have to cycle through and load everyone once at a time. So if I ever run a theme park, I'm never going to have one of those things, because I hate to see kids enjoy a ride and then get bored sitting in the top of this Ferris wheel thing for 10 minutes. Next up is there was a long security line in the morning. Like very, very long. I haven't seen something like that. You go in and it's just the bag checks and everything. And the line goes all the way to the back of the parking lot, wraps around, and then comes all the way back. And you're waiting for maybe like 30 minutes at least to just go through the security gates. So I would recommend, if you're going with a group of people and you've got some people that aren't in a rush to get into the park and maybe have a different thrill level, what they did is they said, hey, we're just hanging out here. Why don't you go in to me and my brother? So we sprinted in, because you can skip the whole security line if you don't have any bags. So we just ran ahead, and within like 30 minutes, like I said earlier in the video, we rode every single roller coaster, and then we were able to meet up with our family, so that way we could hang out with the kids while the other adults went and rode roller coasters. So that's a strategy I would recommend to get the most out of the park, so that way someone can get the things done while other people are waiting in line, and everyone's a lot happier. Okay, this isn't a super bad thing. The layout was kind of confusing at first, but I also like it. It's very unique, very different feel of a theme park. That's all I'm going to say about that. Just go experience it for yourself. At the end of the day, Stunt Pilot broke down, Aftershock broke down, and Tremors broke down like a few hours early. So at the end of the day, 3 of their 5 roller coasters were not operating. But Stunt Pilot and Aftershock, that was within like 10 minutes of park closing, so it wasn't terrible. But just, just something to consider. Another thing was Aftershock was, I would say, very headbangy. I'm not a complainer. Aftershock is, I look at it like X2. It is meant to be intense. It's meant to be rough. For me, the headbanging is part of the experience. My wife did not like Aftershock very much. She said she felt like she got a concussion. She didn't get a concussion, but it is a pretty rough ride. I loved it. I loved the heck out of it. But, it's a little rough, but I would much rather them keep it there and have it rough than scrap it, because it's an icon in my mind. And it also looks epic on the skyline as you drive up. Another thing to note is Tremors. I said this kind of earlier, but Tremors feels like a very timid and forceless and boring ride at the beginning of the day. So I would just say, don't judge it too quickly. Ride it in the nighttime or the afternoon after it warms up, because it was way, way more fun. Only one train ran on Timber Terror the entire day. So that was probably actually the most frustrating thing. I don't know. It was sort of frustrating because Tremors was closed. My nephew, who's 5, who loved Timber Terror and Tremors, we said, well, we're just gonna marathon Tremors till the end of the day. And we went there with like an hour before the park closed. But they're only running one train, so the line was super short, but it moved very, very, very slow. So we only ended up riding Tremors twice in the hour that we were there, which was a bummer. So that's one thing I would say is, especially if your other wooden roller coaster is down, run 2 trains on Timber Terror, and I think that would help guest experience a lot. Oh, this is a tiny thing, and it's them just following park policies, so I'm not going to complain about this too much. But my nephew, who's about a year old, they didn't let him ride on my sister's lap on the carousel because he was wearing socks and no shoes. And it's like, this dude doesn't even walk. And just let him on, He eventually got to ride on a Dumbo ride later, which was nice of the guy. But that was like their first ride in the park, and he got turned away because he only had socks on, and he wasn't even going to be touching the ground. So that was a bit of a bummer. That's the last thing. So anyway, those are the downsides. As you can see, there are far more positives than negatives for Silverwood. And it's just the feeling, like, this is a weird analogy, but let's say you're on the highway and someone hits you with their car. Now think of someone that's like your best friend, and think of someone who is your enemy. You get out of the car with your best friend, and you're like, oh, dude, I'm sorry. Oh, funny story. You get out with your enemy, and you're like, how could you do this to me? All I'm saying is, the way a park makes you feel kind of determines your perception of the park, no matter what happens that day. And at the end of the day, Silverwood makes you feel like someone who's cared about, who's a valuable part of the theme park family. And I really believe they're making decisions to improve guest experience and not just to improve the capital in their pockets. So Silverwood really rocked my world. It was just a magical experience altogether, and we'll be going back. I do want to add, just so you know, we did get some free tickets going there. We reached out and kind of collaborated to get some free tickets. Not everyone in our group was free, but I should mention that. But I still am being completely honest about my opinions about everything, all the good and all the bad. I was really impressed with Silverwood, and I think they're going to do great things. Like, they just got acquired by Herschend. They're a relatively fast and steady growing one. And honestly, Silverwood is on the top of my list of like maybe the top 5 parks that I think has a shot of purchasing and relocating Arieforce One. So keep your eye on Silverwood. If you have the money for it, go travel to it. If not, and you happen to be going within 3 hours of Silverwood like we were, take the detour. It's a really awesome park. You won't regret it. And also, don't underestimate the water park. Even if you're a coaster enthusiast, go to the water park. It's really fun, and honestly, that's part of the reason that you should go to Silverwood. All right, that's all I got for today. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you like about Silverwood. Let me know what you don't. I only went one day, so my experience could be completely different from yours. Let me know in the comments. And that's a wrap on this video. If you liked the video, please like it. And if you're new here and want to stay in the loop for more content like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon, and it would really help out the channel too. Here's what's up at Jimmy Does Coasters. I make content about things like park and coaster ratings, park improvements, roller coaster POVs, park predictions, monthly news, and more. I make a new video every week, and whenever I have an available slot to fill, I let you vote on which video should come next. I also post a weekly YouTube poll for Matchup Monday to let subscribers vote on some of the biggest coaster debates, which will tally up at the end of the year for a recap. Also, if you want a sneak peek of my rough draft schedule for the next few weeks, you can check the banner photo on my channel's homepage. I'll keep that updated as new videos roll out. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, and if you want to follow me there, my handles are in the video description. If you made it to this point of the video, you're awesome, you're a real one. Have an awesome day, and I hope your next coaster ride isn't too far away.